NewsX has been running the Fill the Seats campaign for the past 4 years, demanding that the seats reserved for Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir residents and Kashmiri Pandits must be filled in the Jammu Kashmir Assembly as well as the Indian Parliament. The NewsX campaign to fill the seats is gaining a lot of momentum, with several PoK refugee organizations now writing to the Home Minister for the fruition of this long-standing demand for representation. Once the seats are defrozen, the next big question is who will fill the seats? Who will be the leaders from this particular area who can see the vision and the mission to, in fact, reintegrate and reunite the displaced population of PoJK? We'll be having several conversations, but at this point in time, I'm joined by Advocate Sunil Sethi. He's a PoK refugee and a senior BJP leader. Mr. Sethi, if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, first of all, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with NewsX. You know, there has been an ongoing talk, there's been an ongoing debate, and there's been an ongoing campaign which is being, powered by NewsX to reintegrate Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In your opinion, what has been done since the BJP took over, and what more needs to be done so that this particular campaign bears fruition at the earliest? You've been familiar with what's been happening in the valley. Kashmiri Pandits are being targeted. You're familiar what's happening in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir as well. The misrule is in fact making a lot of international headlines, but nothing is being done at this point in time. Your thoughts on the campaign that NewsX is facilitating?
Sir, before answering directly on this, let us look to the situation which was there before 2014. See, up to 2014, from 1947, what was the representation which was given to PoJK refugees, whether in the Parliament or in the Assembly? None. There was no representation to them. The result was that their voices were never heard. Neither it was heard in Jammu Kashmir Assembly, nor it was heard in the Parliament. By way of direct elections, it is very difficult for them to elect their representative because the refugees population is spread all over the Jammu region and in some areas of Kashmir also. So it will be very difficult to have constituencies in Jammu and Kashmir, which is a free Jammu and Kashmir, kept for PoJK refugees. Now, since 2014, PoJK refugee groups, they are now asserting, they say that we should have representation for PoJK refugees in Assembly, in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly of the Union Territory when it will be formed now. And we should also think about having the representation for Jammu and Kashmir. PoJK refugees are the people who are coming from that area in Parliament also. Because only if their voice will be heard, only then you will be thinking about reintegration of the whole Jammu and Kashmir. If the voices of PoJK refugees are not being heard, who's going to talk about PoJK? Problem is that issue with regard to PoJK, what are the aspirations of the people of PoJK, how the areas to be reintegrated, how the areas are to be combined, what we can do to the people who are living in PoJK, both the persons who have migrated to Jammu and Kashmir, this part of Jammu and Kashmir and rest of the country, and also the people who are still living in PoJK. See, who can talk about that? They themselves have to talk about their interests. Nobody has listened to that. After 2014, now the people have started asserting. The BJP government has also provided the tactical support, whatever could be provided. Now, only a few months back, there was a huge rally of PoJK refugees in Jammu, where the persons more than 1 lakh in number, they came there. Now, if we look to the Delimitation Commission also, for the first time, the Delimitation Commission of Jammu and Kashmir is now recommending that there should be 2 seats for Kashmiri Pandit or Kashmiri migrants population, 1 male and 1 female. And at the same time, the Delimitation Commission is also making recommendation to the government that there should be representation for PoJK refugees also. That is something which is changing now. And with this recommendation of Delimitation Commission, now the PoJK society, the refugee society, is now very hopeful that in coming days there will be reservation of some seats of the refugees in Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. The larger question will be that how the people will be elected. because you cannot hold the elections. They will be representing those areas of PoJK. You cannot hold the direct elections there. So necessarily, for some period of time, you have to adopt the mode of nomination till you regain those areas, and then you can hold the elections.
Right, sir, you're absolutely right. But Mr. Sethi, we've also been making some recommendations. We've been talking about the PM Awas Yojana. We're talking about the other yojanas and schemes such as the Jal Jeevan Yojana. We were talking about the, uptaking of, Human Rights Commission that can definitely help the people who want to return to their homes, need to see some sort of a consolidation by the government. Do you think all of these things can only happen if there is a parliamentary committee which is constituted that looks after these affairs and these suggestions? And the government can only make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely right. See, somebody has to apply its mind. If there is a parliamentary committee who's looking to all these issues, because I'm not talking only about giving them the representation in the assembly and the parliament. There has to be a process of listening to them. And once you start listening to them, then you will know and you will understand what is the demand of the people, whether the demands are genuine. If the demands are genuine, that those demands are required to be met, whether it is giving representation in the judiciary, it is giving representation in the administration, it is giving representation in other segment of the society, whether something more is required to be done for them. Firstly, you have to listen to them. The listening process has to start. Nobody has listened to them for last 75 years. We are now happy that at least now we are being heard. A process has started of at least listening us. So you are absolutely right that there is a parliamentary committee who visits in not only in Jammu and Kashmir, in other areas also where PoJK refugees are there, and starts listening to them, then they will definitely project that what is hurting them. See, 2 generations have already died since 1947. Talking about all these issues in 2022, 2 generations of PoJK refugees have already died. We are now talking to 3rd generation. At least talk to 3rd generation, know what is pinching them, what is their aspirations, and what is their genuine demand.
Right. Mr. Sethi, after the abrogation of Article 370, there was an expectation from this community that the momentum will get going now. You also mentioned just now that 2 generations have been waiting, that one of those generations is not here with us today. They've been waiting for some sort of a closure. In your opinion, what is that one step that needs to be undertaken at the earliest, pronto, to make sure that at least you get the ball rolling, at least the people who, miss their home, the people who miss representation will get some sort of a solace?
See, such is a strong connect of the people with their land that after abrogation of Article 370, when we started the process of registration or giving the domiciles to the persons of PoJK refugees also who had not got the state subject earlier to that for some reasons, there was a tremendous demand from the people from all over the country of the PoJK origin. They, in thousands, they have taken the domicile certificate. All of them may be well settled in the other states, but they want to get connected with their motherland. Most of them have taken the domicile. The process is going on. The people who belongs to PoJK, they want to get connected with the areas. It is our demand, like what we said in Jammu conference of PoJK, that it is our demand that it is high time now for reclaiming PoJK areas, so that the persons who have been made to flee from their motherland, they should also get an opportunity to go back to their motherland. And till that thing happens, at least talk to them, listen to what is their demand, give them whatever is possible within the framework of the Constitution of India.
Right, absolutely right, sir. We also have with us Mr. Ravinder Sharma, PoK refugee and Congress leader. Mr. Sharma, if you can hear me, sir. Mr. Sharma, if you're there with us. Okay, we'll have Mr. Ravinder Sharma joining us momentarily. But in the meantime, let me also, in fact, welcome our other guests for this important conversation. Mr. Jamil Maqsood, Central Secretary General for Committee on Foreign Affairs, United Kashmir People's National Party. We're also joined by Romi Sharma, a PoJK refugee activist, Sahil Bashir Bhatt, State President and official spokesperson, Jammu and Kashmir Rashtriya Lok Janshakti Party. Javed Beg, political analyst, also joins us on the show. And last but by no means the least, Mr. Amit Raina, Kashmiri Pandit, joining us on the broadcast as well. Mr. Ravinder Sharma, if you can hear me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sharma, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us. Well, the future of the people who've been displaced from Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir is what we are discussing. NewsX has been running a campaign for the last 3 years and giving suggestions to the government, giving ideas, giving a plan of action, giving a blueprint of how this can be done and how something which is a historical miss can be corrected. What are your thoughts on the urgency of this matter, and what are your thoughts on what the central government should do right now in concomitance with what they have done in the last 8 to 10 years?
See, the question is, first of all, it's more than 70 years that the people of PoJK were displaced and settled in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Jammu region and some other parts of the country, and they were provided lands. Some people, the urban refugees, they were provided plots and residential accommodation in the cities. There were two types of displaced person: urban refugees and rural refugees. The rural refugees who were cultivating agriculturist class, they were settled in the rural areas of Jammu province in various parts, given lands by the government, and they have in 7 decades, most of them have settled, or sometimes they have worked hard and competed with the rest of the people and come up to the level and fought poverty, and economically they have risen because of the hard work. Most of the people in Jammu and Kashmir, they were recruited in the armed forces, refugees and others. I may tell you that the biggest source of employment other than agriculture and small businesses was the armed forces. Now the chances are very limited after the Agnipath scheme and others. They don't have other resources. A package, financial package was worked out in 2012 and 14, although in the past also small packages were given. In the 47 after uprootment, they were given some financial assistance for their relief and rehabilitation. But the biggest thing was the allotment of lands and plots or residential accommodation, which was not a small job, it was a Herculean job to settle such a large number of refugees, displaced persons from PoJK. Now the question is that the youth have to be educated, youth have to be given jobs, you have to be financially empowered. I believe that is more important than the political empowerment. I'll come to that. The youth, we had worked out, previous government, mainly Congress, and I was one of the main authors of the package of 2014 in consultation with various refugee and displaced organizations. And the then government of Dr. Manmohan Singh, they took initiative, and on the Congress initiative a package was worked out, which comprised of 4 things: a 25 lakh financial package to each family of 1947. There were 40,000 families comprising of from PoJK, especially Poonch, Mirpur, Muzaffarabad and parts of Chhamp, who were uprooted in 65 and 71. They were 40,000 in total number who were registered. There were unregistered also, but we sought 25 lakh per family for registered families. Although the Joint Parliamentary Committee enhanced this package to 30 lakh. Instead of 30 lakh, only 70% of refugees, displaced persons have got 5.5 lakh only. The families have split into multiple 8, 10, 15 families. So per family, they have got just 50,000 to 1 lakh, not more than that. So that was the finance aspect. Second was that the technical institutions in the country, 1% intake capacity should be enhanced. like it was done for West Pakistan refugees by the Manmohan Singh government in 2008, that the youth of refugees, they should have the technical and professional approach and education.
Right.
That was second thing. Third thing was that the left-out families should be registered and considered. So that is financial aspect. Now the question is political empowerment.
Correct.
Although I was also member of the upper house in Jammu Kashmir by virtue of my government, and I was nominated. I was nominated or elected. Though there were two houses. Some people were elected in 70 years. They became ministers also, MLAs also, and some perhaps MPs also in the general quota. Now the demand is that BJP too had committed to them that 30,000 per lakh per family and other financial package plus eight seats shall be displeased for their representatives. So as a refugee leader, as a refugee representative, I say that yes, out of the 24 seats kept reserved for PoJK people, since 1/3 population has migrated to this part, let them give 8 seats to Jammu and Kashmir. What is their quota as per population of 1947? But they should be elected, not the stooges of government. Let the community be given the right to elect their representatives, and they should be elected representatives belonging to different political parties, may not be belonging to any political party.
So do you think there should be a...
will have the right to choose
So do you think there should be a
representatives
parliamentary committee who should be looking after the affairs, whatever they may be?
Parliamentary committee of the Home Ministry has already suggested this on the demand of refugees. They have incorporated this demand and suggestion that they can defreeze 8 seats and give to the refugees. But if there is a provision of nomination being done, I believe this will not be a justice. This will be another fraud with the committee. Some people, some pro-government people, some pro-ruling party leaders will be nominated. They shall not be able to do justice. It is only their real representatives will be elected if they are given the right. And this is possible under the Constitution because the Sangha Assembly is the pattern in the Northeast where 1 seat is elected by the Buddhists. Wherever they are registered as voters. But if we are given this, I think we welcome it as a Congress party, as a representative of PoJK refugees. This is possible.
All right, sir. All right. Appreciate that response. Amit, Raina, if you're here with us.
Sir.
Amit, Raina. Amit, a lot to assimilate, a lot to disseminate, and a lot to ponder over. But at the same time, there needs to be a consolidation of the various issues. Mr. Sharma also mentioned that the Constitution and its purview has to be honored when all of these suggestions and all of these actions will be, basically processed for the welfare of the people who have been displaced. Where do you stand on this? Do you think that the set of plan that NewsX has been putting up on our screens as well as putting up in the past for the last 3 years is the way forward, is the only way forward?
Before I start, I would like to thank NewsX and its team for being our voice. I represent the displaced community of Jammu and Kashmir, which includes both PoJK as well as Kashmiri Pandits. And thank you from bottom of hearts for being our voice, for taking our cause up. Now, coming back to the steps which government has taken, I think it's a welcome. Last year, around June, same time, I think June 2021, when there was a meeting with Gupkar Alliance and Prime Minister, there was enough furore and hangama at Jammu as well as Delhi. Now, this hangama came from a section of people who have been victimized over 70 years. That was largely the PoJK people and Kashmiri Pandit community. Because after abrogation of Article 370, there is a hope that the state will see a new development. It will be seen in a new light. And when it was only select political parties being called, it was a little bit of sad for both the communities, PoJK as well as Kashmiri Pandits, because for 70 years we did not have a political voice. And when we thought that state is being now rebuilt it is important that the voice of these two communities is also heard, apart from others, which the other communities also, including women, which had been denied rights under 370 and 35A. So we were hoping that the voice of this marginalized communities of Jammu and Kashmir will also be heard in restructuring and rebuilding the state. The Prime Minister largely kept the meeting to political parties, but there have been initiatives by the government on hearing the voices of these displaced communities. Now, one of the delimitation the decision committee's recommendation is the reservation of seats. And I would tend to agree with Mr. Sharma that I personally would have, I personally was hoping that there will be 2 seats reserved and would be elected by election by contest, because there is always a chance that the 2 people whom you nominate as representatives of the community tend more to be people of the political party they represent than the community they claim to represent. So if BJP or Congress, whichever party would be in power at that point of time, nominates 2 people, the tendency would be that it would be 2 of their own men who follow the same ideology and may not be in sync with the ideology of the community. So ideally, I would have personally appreciated if the 2 seats would have been reserved for the displaced community of Kashmir, because there is possibility that you cannot do it in the name of religion, but you could have easily done the same for the displaced people from Kashmir as well as for people from PoJK. So that is very important. Second is that we need to understand that the loss of geography is the biggest worry for both the communities, because our religion, our customs, our language, our traditions are very much geographically bound. And unless and until we do not expedite that return, we are about to lose probably 2 civilizations. One is of Kashmiri Pandit and others from PoJK, because they come with distinct civilizational traits. And if we do not get back those geographical limits for these communities, we are going to see extinction of 2 prominent communities from PoJK. So there has to be an effort to get back Kashmiri Pandits back to the valley. There has to be an effort to get areas of PoJK back, so that communities which have been displaced from PoJK also go back, because it has been now 32 years and Kashmiri Pandits have still not gone home, and recent efforts have been undone due to terrorist activities. The sense of security which community is looking at, unfortunately, is still missing for reasons best known to the government, because for 32 years we have not seen a single conviction that has happened on terror activities. Yes, Yasin Malik has been convicted, but not for the crimes he has committed against the minority community. So one, they have to expedite, and the justice system, you will have to fast track the justice system. That is one. Secondly, the community is still awaiting the reasons of our exodus officially documented. That is still also not happened. So I would hope that government, apart from giving us political voice, which we hope will happen through nomination of 2 MLAs, will also focus on other things, because all of them to have work in tandem, just giving us voice with no action on the ground may not be very fruitful. So I think government needs to now step up and ensure that the voice of minority is back in Kashmir, and PoJK people are also back in the areas which are now in Pakistan.
All right. Valid points there. Valid and constructive points in tune with what we have also been talking about on NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.